Good afternoon, everyone in Washington and in Seattle. I'm David Rothstein. I'm principal with the CFE Fund. We run the National Bank On program. We are thrilled to, to welcome you and be part of Bank On Washington Week that's already been going on with the title of The Magic of Banking. We are really excited to be part of this piece of unlocking and finding new ways to help young and other individuals get into the banking system. I am really excited to be interviewing, for lack of better terms, Andrew Shanafelt, who is at Issaquah High School in Washington, and his team of students won the Film Fest not too long ago for their video about banking, which featured some of the Bank On national account standard accounts. We're really proud of them, and we're really excited. We're really excited that they took the time to invest in this effort. So thank you for being part of this, Andrew. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, I wanted to first ask you, how did the students select the topic? How did they decide that this is what they wanted?
Yeah, so it was really interesting. In the classes that I teach, we normally focus on sales and marketing and some more kind of introduction to business. And so once I saw this opportunity, it kind of gave us a chance to expand the curriculum beyond what we normally do. And so it was really cool because it ended up being very collaborative with the students, unlike in a lot of units where I say, we're going to do this, and then that we follow whatever my lead. I brought up the video competition to my students. We talked about some of the basic concerns with banking and particularly unbanked populations. And really my students ran with it. So one student in particular, Anna, kind of took the lead. And it was like we had a conversation on Tuesday, and then Thursday we came back to class and she's like, okay, we're doing this whole thing. And she was really interested in the idea that it might even be hard to get a job in the first place if you didn't have a bank for direct deposit. And that was one of those things that through looking at Bank On's resources and doing some independent research on herself, that just really clicked for her. Because I think she could really empathize with that situation of wanting to get a job and not being able to because of this, kind of administrative, but also real hurdle.
That's really interesting, and it's so cool that that she was excited about it and that they moved so quickly on a decision
it went
to
really
do it. Yeah. What do you think? What do you think was the most surprising thing about both learning about sort of what Bank On is about and banking, and then filming it? What do you think the most surprising piece of that was for your students?
I think the interesting part is surprise is a word that I think I would have kept coming back to over and over again as more kids got looped into the project. It was just something they hadn't ever thought about or been exposed to before. And I think that was a really valuable learning piece for all of my students. We're the school that we're located in is a fairly affluent area. And so the idea of not having a bank account just hadn't really clicked with many of my students before. And so then especially when we started talking about some of the very real numbers out there about how many people, because of a variety of reasons, don't have access to conventional banking, that really clicked for them, I think. But just the whole context was surprising to them. And so they kind of grew and learned in leaps and bounds over that. It was actually interesting. A couple of the students who were actually in the video, like acting in it, were not in any of my classes. They were like friends of my students from the theater department. And they have all talked about how interested they were in the concept afterwards.
That's great. They recruited, so they even spread the message more than just themselves.
Yes, they did. Very industrious.
That's really funny. What were you most surprised about that either they knew or didn't know during this process, that when you sat down with them?
Yeah, I think, and this is something that speaks to something we kind of work on in education all the time, is that some basic pieces of personal financial literacy are, it's very variable. Some students, like I've had students who've come in being like, oh, I was looking at Apple's annual report because I'm investing stocks and bonds right now. And then a lot of other students who don't really understand banks at all. like one of the things I kind of always jokingly, but only half jokingly always tell my students is, you have to pay your credit card bills, right? And that's sometimes some of those basic things, that there's money coming in and there's money coming out, and you have to pay attention to that and make sure that you're able to pay your bills, and some basic, not even so much budgeting, but just kind of taking, personal financial literacy things. Just a lot of students haven't been exposed to it yet. And you can kind of tell it really varies family to family, because we don't have a pretty standardized piece of the high school curriculum that prepares students for that. And so this was actually a really cool opportunity, because it's always something that I want to get into my classes more and more. But there's certain things I kind of have to do because of, it's not a personal finance class. So it was a really cool way to integrate that. And just, if nothing else, get kids talking about it and thinking about it, for some of them for the first time.
Yeah. So when they talk about bank accounts, what are some of the nuanced things that you and some of your colleagues that are educators or working with them pick up on? You mentioned the credit card bill piece, that it's something you have to pay monthly, or there are certainly repercussions. Do they have a level of understanding, and how is that growing or different in terms of some of the new differences between the fintech apps that are out there and then regular checking accounts?
Yeah, I think there's still a pretty big knowledge gap when it comes to that. For a lot of students, it seems like their level of engagement is mostly, what can I use this weekend? So for a lot of them, things like Venmo and those various different just apps that you can use to pay, just because it makes it easier to move money around between them. And so a lot of them haven't really thought about the back end of what it means to have a checking account versus a savings account. I know I actually just recorded a video for remote learning for my students just about the powers of compound interest, and a lot of them haven't thought about that. And what does it mean to pay interest? And to be considering that. I know a lot of what we end up pushing kids towards are kind of some of the immediate things. So we talk about credit card debt, because I know just anecdotally, I don't have exact numbers, but when I went to college, I think about 1 out of 10 of my friends had credit card debt that was really just a mistake that they wish they hadn't made. And so I'm kind of passionate about making my students aware of just how to appropriately use credit cards. Definitely student loans is a topic that makes a lot of sense for students, because for a lot of them, they know it's coming up in the near future and wanting to understand that a little bit better. But so I think this was a cool opportunity just to talk about the importance of having a financial identity as it is, and that just having a checking account actually makes so many things in society more effortless.
Yeah. And do you get a sense from the students that that did this work and that they're working with, that they've taken this and they're better prepared to be in the workforce, or that they're making changes pretty instantly? One of the things that we like about Bank On is that it's not complicated. It's pretty bread and butter, very basic. I mean, the accounts do a lot, but and they're in some ways better than or have more features than a regular checking account or a student checking account even. Do you feel like it's easy for them to now act on it?
Yes, and that is definitely one of the things that, again, the student who took the particular lead, there were a group of them that really ran with it. But the one girl I was amazed by, I mean, she had more information than I had 2 days after we first brought it up. And part of it is she had really gone through the website and gone through some of the online resources. And she was able to speak very articulately pretty quickly. And it seemed like she would know how to advise someone how to do it. And that was kind of the thrust of the video that my students did, is they wanted to get to the idea of how having that person well placed to make an intervention with someone who doesn't have access to a bank account, to give them the resources they need, and then making that barrier to entry so much lower. I think that's a really valuable service that Bank On provides.
What haven't I asked you that has been a really fun part of this experience, or something that you want the Bank On Washington world to know?
That's an interesting, man, I don't know. I will say it, I think the format of this was really beneficial for my students. They got excited about the idea of shooting a video as opposed to, writing an essay or doing something else. They really liked the creative piece of it. And especially for so often, a lot of what a lot of high school students just coming into something like this, they're like, oh, banking, finance, they're kind of just like an initial resistance, like this is going to be a boring, dry subject. But then when we started this process and they got into it, they thought about the real world implications, which was cool, but giving them that kind of creative outlet and getting to fuse the creativity with really getting into some core content with banking and personal finance. I felt that was really cool to see them bring that together. Like I said, we were bringing in people from the theater department and people from all over the school to help us out.
Sure. And it's a real problem. I mean, it's a real situation that you addressed in terms of people, first-time workers, either not having an account or not, realizing that that paper checks are really phasing out. Certainly, one of the things that, unfortunately, this terrible COVID pandemic has shown us is that payments are so much quicker and more importantly, getting to people faster when they're electronic. So it certainly reinforces that for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Andrew, and congratulations again to you guys,
thank you so
your
much.
team. And I look forward to seeing what else they can put out and what else you guys are working on.
Yeah, we look forward to doing it again. Thank you to everyone for this cool opportunity for my students.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I sent in an application earlier, and I was wondering if there was any other way I can get paid than direct deposit.
No, I'm sorry. Is that not an option for you?
I don't have a bank, so...
I'm sorry. I can get your application just in case and see what I can do. Hello? Is this Sam? Yeah, it's Elena from The Beam. I know you said you didn't have a bank account, but I actually did some research and there's this amazing program called Bank On. Yeah, one of its core functions is actually deposit capability, which includes not only direct deposit, but free cash and checks in branch and at an ATM. Yeah, and they have a lot of other core features like offering a transaction account at a banking institution. That includes a checking account. So that way you can manage the money you make here too. Yeah, for sure. No worries. Hope to see you there.